You turn my mourning into dancing. Your love changes everything. There's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. 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 Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything.
Good morning, rooted men. Fix my hair. Tell me I'm on. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Make sure there's actually sound. I'm still a little gun shy. Let's see who's on here this morning real quick before I get started. Good morning, Chuck. Good to have you with us. Ken Gooch. Chris Conley. And Eric. Thank you, Chuck. That's all I needed to hear. I just, it's funny. I've never had a problem with that before. My computer's different than Tom's, so I don't have all the gadgets that can go bad. It's just a laptop. No fancy camera, no fancy microphone. So there's not a lot I can do if it does fail. That's that's kind of the way it works. Oh, today's verses are going to be from Genesis, and we're continuing on with the story from Abraham. If you can't relate to today's story, I think we all kind of live that life a little bit. It's how do you say it? It's normal. I mean, it's very normal. I mean, Abraham has just been visited by angels. Happens every day to us, right? We go through this all the time. It's a cool story, but it's in a way it's different. And so so yesterday you heard that he was visited by angels and they were going to have a baby. Let's pick up the verse right from there, and I think I have it here. Right here. Is that right? Yeah, it looks right to me. It says, I haven't got it in the right spot. Teach me to read through it before I start. It's got a title for this section. It's called Abraham Pleading for Sodom. But when the men got up to leave, they looked down toward Sodom. And Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? What I'm about to do. Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. I first read that, I thought to myself, is God asking counsel from the two men, the angels? And the more I read it, it sounds as though God is doing like most pastors do. They'll ask rhetorical questions. They'll ask a question that they already know the answer to. So yeah, he's asking a question, but it's not. He didn't expect anybody else to answer it. It's just him processing or a rhetorical question. I mean, I think they can be used sometimes to communicate a point. And then he decides, let's see, in verse 17, 18, 19. Okay, so then we're at 19. He says, for I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he had promised him. So Abraham is really in this situation. God is talking about all the things that he's going to do for Abraham. And then the Lord says the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great. Their sin is so grievous. That part there, that kind of reminded me, if you remember from the Exodus story. Now, this is going to come after this event, so that's probably not the best reference, but this is kind of the similar. The Jews were imprisoned basically in Egypt. Joseph had really done a lot of great things in Egypt, but the emperor forgot about him. And the Pharaoh, I think they are. The Pharaoh had forgotten about Joseph because it had been so long. And basically the Jews had become slaves, the Hebrews at that time they were called. And when Moses talks to God, he talks about the outcry. there's so much that that God can't ignore it anymore. He can't. He decides he has to do something about it. I think ignoring it's probably the worst possible word to use in that case. But saying we talk about God listening to our prayers, and if you look at Abraham's life, the promises that were kept, the promises that God gave Abraham, he never saw. He never saw the entire Jewish nation owning all of Israel. He never saw all the great things that came from his line on this earth, in this kingdom. Whether he saw them actually as they happened, I don't know. We don't know because we don't really understand that part. But his promises were kept, but they were kept hundreds of years later, generations later. Where was I? So the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, so grievous, that I will go down and see what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. So he's going to send his angels down there to check on it. He's going to verify. He's going to make sure that the outcry is so bad that he wants to, And then something is cool. The men turned. Okay, so then the men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away all the righteous with the wicked?" Abraham questioning God. Courageous, I must say, but what if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? So Abraham begins a negotiation. He's questioning God. He's doing it in a way that he's not saying you're wrong. He's not saying you shouldn't do this. He's just asking him, which is a very good way as a person evangelizing to the people in this community. Ask them questions. Instead of telling them exactly what you believe and how you believe it, ask them questions about what they believe. You'll find most beliefs in this kingdom today are on shaky ground. They're not. They can tell you that they think this is right, but they can't tell you why. They can't tell you, and they can't. If you dig deeper, sometimes it's amazing how there's nothing there. There's no foundation for their beliefs. It's just an emotion or a thought. And every good and right idea should have a foundation in scriptures. If you're not in scriptures, if you're not a Christian, then you might question that theory, but so much of their belief system already is based in Christian belief system. It's funny how we've overlapped the two. We've made it into a secular thing, and it's actually religious. It's actually part of our belief system. The Lord said that if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham spoke up again. Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, no kidding, though I am not but dust and ashes. What if the number of righteous people is less than 50? Will you destroy the whole place for a lack of 5 people? He goes, if I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. Once again, he spoke to him. What if only 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of the 40, I will not do it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. For what if 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Abraham said, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, See, Abraham could have cut out all this and just gone right to 10. But Abraham said, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? He said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. And then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left and returned home. Wow. Okay. So Abraham's very bold here. I mean, this is God he's talking to, and yet he's really patient. He's really pushing his luck. I think you could say it. I mean, if you look at scriptures, though, how many times people question God and it's not worked out well. This is Abraham really pushing the boundary, but he does it in a humble, and it kind of brings me back to the Abel or the Canaan story of Cain and Abel, how both of them brought offerings to God. They both brought the offering that was requested of them, the correct offering. Abel's heart was good. Cain's was bad. His heart inside, something was different about him. God, and I think that's the thing we can take from today. We can be impatient. We can make mistakes. Abraham is proof of that. We can take things in our own hands, which we do every day. We know that. We can't. Sometimes we don't think we can wait for God to answer our prayers. So we push through and fix it ourselves, which is usually not good. But we can't help ourselves. It's God created us. He understands that that's how we're going to act. Sometimes we're going to react. But he still knows our heart. He still knows who we are and whose we are. And he loves us. And if we can take anything from today's lessons, that he's more patient with us than we are with him. And maybe that's the best way to put it. God, we take things in our own hands, and God's willing to wait for us. And that's kind of the cool part about today's stuff. That's what I have for you today. I know it's not much. There's a lot of scripture, though. I didn't want to go too long. Let's see. I think I saw Bert Reggiani show up, and I appreciate you coming, Bert. That's what I have for you today, boys. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. I love doing this every Thursday, Tuesday, and Fridays, and whenever I get a chance to do it. I'll be back at 9 for prayer. Until then, have a firmly rooted day, and may someone see Jesus in you. Peace. Hey, Ken. I'm online still.
You're online still.
I'm off already. I just got off. As soon as I saw the voice, as soon as I saw the phone ring, I go, damn it. Thank God I didn't pick my nose. All right. Talk to you later.